Well, here it is. It's late June. We've been in our gardens. We've been planting our vegetable gardens. And there's a lot of us that are new to gardening this year that have just taken this on. And we've gotten our tomatoes in or other things. But there's a lot that we can do to the garden this time of year and to plan out for the rest of the year. So I'm with Ken out at Portland Nursery. And Ken, tell us a little bit about gardening and how to extend that season.
Right, yeah, now that all the warm crops are in and sort of doing their thing, people don't tend to think about the fall garden until it's actually autumn, and by then of course it's too late to plant a lot of things. July is actually the time you want to get going on a lot of those second plantings, the second crop of broccoli, the cabbage, the kales, those sorts of things. And for those brassicas, it's especially nice because the heat of the summer tends to limit the predations of the cabbage moth, which are such a nuisance in the early part of the season.
Yes, and the things like we're harvesting lettuces and things like that, but we can replant those things multiple times throughout the summer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Lettuces, especially spinach as well, some of the leafy stuff gets a little tired, or it bolts really quickly with the heat. Sometimes you just take a couple weeks, a month off, and then start that next crop. And by the time it's getting into a time when it's good size, the night temperatures come back down there in August, and you won't have it bolt as quickly.
Right. And then as we're harvesting our garden now, and things are coming ripe and mature, and we're thinking about planning things for later in the fall and the summer, how do we go about organizing or leaving space in our garden for planting other crops for later? And is there some tips on that?
Right. So. Switch families, maybe if you've had something into lettuces, you might want to consider some fall parsnips or some other kind of a later root crop, especially something you can keep in the ground. Storage can be sort of a premium in the home, and a lot of times if you can just go out into the yard and retrieve things at least through part of the winter, that's kind of nice. You can do the same thing with leeks. Leek and potato soup is a great favorite in the winter time, so that's a nice one to
Right, because that probably helps, if you have, certain pests that eat certain types, like by planting a crop that might be different, you eliminate that contamination between pests or the different things. Now that we're, towards, late June, a lot of people have planted things, but, some people are afraid it's like, oh, it's too late to be planting a tomato now, I might not get anything. Is that true, or can you still be planting this time?
You definitely can. A couple years back when Alice down at Log House was just starting with all her grafted vegetables, she sent me grafted, ungrafted pears for trialing, eggplants, peppers, tomatoes, 25 pears all in all. And those went in around the 22nd of June. I got great harvest on almost everything. A few of the really long season grafted tomatoes, like the Brandywines, I ended up with huge heroic crops of green, not quite ripe tomatoes. But everything else, all the cherries, all the kind of mid-season types, nice crop right there at the end of the season.
And you can go up even through 4th of July on some of these things and still get a harvest, depending on how late it's going into the summer.
It varies a little bit with year to year. We never know if we're going to kind of have a long fall or a earlier fall. But I've done corn on the 4th of July. Stick with the shorter season variety, and still gotten a nice crop out of that.
Right. So there's lots of tips and tricks that we can use as we're planning out our garden plots and kind of have that first wave of stuff kind of planted. Is now as that's maturing and we may be harvesting some things, we can kind of look and think about, okay, what is the rest of this next month's plan, or even going into the fall or winter, what kind of crops, and getting a bit of planning on that. So and I'm sure you guys are the knowledgeable staff out here at Portland Nursery has lots of tips and tricks on how you guys can help a customer and homeowner prepare their garden beds, and you still have this huge selection of veggie starts for the season. So.
Yeah, I learn from my staff all the time. I mean, I didn't grow kohlrabi for years, and somebody brought some into the break room. Same thing with celery root. It's this little known thing that's starting to sort of get a following. Had some at a party, fantastic, and grew it. That was when I was able to keep in the ground all winter, and it's sort of like scalloped potatoes, but a little bit sweeter. Makes a wonderful souffle.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to try some new things and come out to the nursery here.
It's a big world.
Right. So, and you guys have some protocols that you need to you want to make sure people are following when they come out to the nursery.
Absolutely. We are requiring masks at this point. We do have some freebies to use if a person forgets. We're asking people to keep a respectable distance, something close to 6 feet. We have parts of the store closed, so we will pull seeds for you or some of the fertilizers. As it's warmed up now, we have been able to put our house plants outside in the front greenhouse so people can once again self-serve and sort of peruse those, which is really nice for folks.
Right. So, so you can come on out here to Portland Nursery. They're open, the staff is knowledgeable. You can get all the information on how to plan out your garden and your veggies, get a bunch of great starts. So Ken, we appreciate you being with us today. And as always, make sure you go to your website for any more information, or you can go to gardentime.tv and we'll click you over. So thank you.
Nice talking to you.
Yeah.